Call this meeting to order. Please stand. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation,
under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. We'll go with a roll call. Ms. Klakowski.
Here.
Mr. Easterwood. Here. Ms. Souser.
Here.
Mr. Meyerholtz.
Here.
Mr. Babcock.
Here.
Mr. Warner.
Here.
All right. Everyone had a chance to review the agenda. All right, and minutes from the previous meeting. Any changes or corrections? If not, do I have a motion to mark as read?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, we have just a couple of previous here. All right. First up, we have a second reading of an ordinance making supplemental appropriations for the fiscal year ending December 31st, 2024. And this is adjusting the line items for the salary clerk treasurer from 42,500 to 45,000. And as well as adjusting the OPERS and Medicare line items as well. Is there any further discussion about that? All right. That's being done to cover the small increase we made to the clerk in order to comply with the federal laws. Right. Okay, so next up, we have an emergency reading for realigning appropriations for the fiscal year ending December 31st, 2024. Like I said, this is declaring an emergency. And so this is realigning our general fund line items to cover Silver Street and Main Street. Correct? This one covers both. And so we'll report a little bit later, but it's been recommended out of that committee to move forward with both projects this year. It's been identified previously within the Finance and Administrative Process Committee that can be covered with some of the appropriations that we already made. So this realignment is just taking those and putting them into the right line items so that they can be covered for road work. Is there any further discussion about that? Any questions?
Suspend rules.
Okay. Motion to suspend the rules and a second.
Second.
Roll call, Mr. Warner,
Yes.
Mr. Babcock,
Yeah.
Mr. Meyerholtz,
Yes.
Ms. Souser,
Yeah.
Mr. Easterwood,
Yes.
Ms. Klakowski.
Yes.
Okay, and just once again for the audience, this will allow council to move forward with a project to pave the residential portion of Main Street and the town limits to the trailer court on Silver Street. So we have that. Do we have a motion for approval?
So move.
And a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Okay, so we have Following up with that, we have ordinance 2024-15. So this would be an ordinance awarding project contract, authorizing the mayor and or village administrator to sign an agreement and declaring an emergency. And so this is moving forward with the quote or the project estimate given to us by Morlock Asphalt. Do you know the amount of that off the top of your head, or?
It's the bid, the
122.
22.
yeah.
It just wasn't on there. So approximately $122,000. So do we have a motion to suspend the rules?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, Ms. Klukowski, Mr. Easterwood.
Yes.
Ms. Soucer,
Yes.
Mr. Meyerhold,
Yes.
Mr. Babcock, Mr. Warner.
Yes.
Do we have a motion to approve the bid contract?
So moved.
And any further discussion? And a second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All righty. And to finish up that business, we have resolution approving the West and Silver Street Improvement Project, authoring the mayor and or village administrator to sign the agreement and declaring an emergency.
Why are these both? Oh, never mind.
One's a resolution.
I'm sorry. You're right.
Okay, so this is resolution 2024-12. Do we have a motion to suspend the rules?
So moved. Second.
Second, okay. Mr. Warner,
Yes.
Mr. Babcock,
Yes.
Mr. Meyerholtz, Ms. Soucer,
Yeah.
Mr. Easterwood,
Yes.
Ms. Klukowski.
Yes.
And a motion to approve resolution 2024-12.
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. We're off to a great start. Just a couple things mentioned on my end. We of course had the ribbon cutting for the walking path, which was an awesome event. Actually got tons of great feedback from people using that. And just a reminder that we do have like a little project out there that you can put in your input about some of the other things that have been suggested to us that could be potential projects. And there's more information on Facebook for that, but you can put some stickers on the signs out there when you walk the path, and that kind of shows us where interest is for each of the different projects. Park and Rec also had a bike wash, which was really cool, and I'm looking forward to seeing the word get out about that. And I think they're planning on having a couple more. That was really neat. And I personally met with Habitat for Humanity. They have a couple different projects, possible projects in town, and so it's neat to see them continue to invest in the town. So they always have the gears turning there, and so that's exciting. And also wanted to note that I was invited to the project blessing for a house that they are rehabbing on Brook Lane. This was the house that had kind of fallen out of disrepair. The person in it, had to give up the house. They were unable to take care of it. And just a little fun fact, that's happened only 5 times within the history of Wood County Habitat for Humanity. So regardless, they found a new family, and so they're literally ripping it all apart and putting it back together. So that's also an exciting thing to see happen. And just finally, I wanted to report that we had, I think, a very successful second meeting for the Western Historical Society. And so they are moving towards creating a 501c3 nonprofit in hopes to be able to kind of foster some, projects that align with history and Weston in general. And so exciting to see people step up and take a part in that, and the pieces are coming together quickly. So if anyone's interested, that's an open invitation. Stephanie, anything for council?
I just have, if you guys noticed in the folder, there was a quote for ADT. We had our cameras installed. They don't do audio, just video. So they said that, we could add motion activated cameras, but they only record for 2-minute segments. And then they also said it wouldn't be a swap, it'd be in addition to what we already have. So if we wanted to add audio or if we just want to continue with what we have. So that was in there.
If we had a different system, though, we would be able to do full option.
I don't think so.
I thought that's what it said.
Yeah, that was with those motion activated ones, they do audio once the motion is activated, but for 2 minutes,
No, I
but
understand that, but I thought there was a different system that could be utilized to where you could have full audio. I mean, how do they do it in the courthouse and how do they do it in the school and how do they do that elsewhere? I don't
I
understand.
don't know. The way ADT said is that they specifically don't add in audio, because of, they said legal restrictions and wiretapping laws. But I don't know how either. I wondered the same thing, how others do it unless we think they do and they actually don't. I'm not sure. Like the courthouses, I'm wondering if they have like a camera system like what we do and they just record that way. I don't know. Yeah. All the ones that I've come across are just the motion activated ones, so I don't know.
Any further discussion on that?
Well, I guess other than the fact that, do we want the 2-minute cameras?
Yeah, but bills are approving
Yeah.
what was already installed.
We already,
You don't know the difference of.
there isn't a difference. We would keep, they don't swap out. We would have to keep what we have and then add
Right.
to, or add more cameras, which sounds silly to me.
Is there a reason we would need audio?
I think if I got the gist of it, part of the problem is it was kind of insinuated that there would be audio. And so there's just kind of that fact, obviously, what we're worried about is, the safety of the building. And so I guess audio could be important context, if anything, were to happen.
That makes sense.
But it appears that we don't have much of a choice. I mean, we have a choice, but it costs more.
So do we have I saw the quote that was in there, but that was for what we have. Do we have a quote for what the additional would?
Yeah,
The additionals in there.
yeah, it was in the not so thick folder.
Right.
And then the other one that's in there is the bill for what we have now, the installation, and then that first month of the service charge.
52 a month.
Yeah, that one I think is the quote for the motion activated.
I guess I would say if anyone feels that there's any concern or wants to review this, then we could probably just take it to a committee and get it reviewed and taken care of. Is that something you'd like to see happen?
I mean, if we decide we end up needing the audio ones, which I think I would like that idea, especially here, and we're stuck with the other ones, what would the cost be to put those non-audio ones into the maintenance garage just for, what I'm saying? We've already got them. How much will it be for an additional service?
That might be worth looking into.
Because here's the thing, I mean, we're trying to do is protect everything we own, everything. I mean, if someone were to break in a maintenance garage, I wouldn't care if they would, right?
Whether they're singing or.
Yeah, whether they're
Quiet.
dancing the jig or anything like that, but we want to know where they're at, Here, if Stephanie gets confronted with something, that's what we need the audio for. That's what we were trying to envision with it too. And it helps everything. So, I mean, to me, if we were to get a quote to go down there, just to monitor the fronts and outs and actually have something, that'd be a different story.
Okay, well,
You wouldn't need the cameras that you have here
Not really.
because they're gonna install new
Mhm.
or different, I should say.
Yeah, well, I mean, what it could be is just, I mean, I know the quote had the same amount of what we already have. What it could be is you're just adding an additional one. So you're still getting your 24/7 video, and then adding that motion one will pick up sound, but not all the time will it pick up sound. That's the problem with those ones, is it only does 2 minutes. And if that person is standing still and that 2 minutes is up, it's not gonna pick up. I mean, ADT might be different with how sensitive the motion is.
There's a lot of questions.
I
yeah,
think it takes more research too.
Yeah, I didn't see in there, because you have cameras mounted outside. Did that quote include those cameras out there too?
Mhm.
Well, you wouldn't necessarily need it for.
No.
That's the point. So, yeah, I think
Okay.
we need to do more.
yeah, so awesome. So let's plan on hopefully having some of those questions answered for the 12th, but we can talk about it in more detail
When
at
is
administrative
I was gonna
process.
say, when is safety?
It could also be safety. That's the 26th.
Mhm.
Hey, let's do that. Let's do that. Any questions in the meantime? Send them to Stephanie. All right. Any questions for Harold? Harold, anything for council?
I just, received an email last week saying that, railroad tracks over here on Walnut Street will be closed.
Right.
They didn't specifically say how long, but it's gonna be closed.
Yeah.
At least a couple days.
And it sounds like they're doing improvements to it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
I know you had mentioned that the D&D will be readdressing the reservoir later in the season. And so we've communicated with them to finish that project out and maybe like paving.
Concrete,
Yeah.
concrete is gonna be done.
Thursday.
Today, it's supposed to be done on the 8th.
Okay.
The other thing I know for, so I asked him at the last meeting, he never responded, so I texted him today, find out, and they said they'd have a down meeting, so.
You get any clarification on the streetlights quote for the additionals?
No, not yet. They haven't emailed me back yet, so I'll reach out to them again.
If you can have that before the public works.
Okay.
All right, awesome. Ken, code enforcement.
One permit's been mentioned since the previous one, on the 17th. Signed a fence permit for 13-325 Silver Street. On the 22nd, I sent a letter regarding the keeping ducks to the property owner and the renter. At the Maple Street address, have not heard a response back. So we'll be following up on that one. 25th, I gave Stephanie the properties that needed grass cut as well as others that had items in the boulevards in front of their residences. On the 29th, I received a call from the property owner on Maple Street regarding a notice of violation, explained what had to be done to correct the issue. And once they got it laid out, they were good with it. They said they'd take care of it. July 30th, I received a call from an owner of another house on Maple Street concerning a letter that she received, explained the reason and the corrective action required. She was good with that. I received a call from the property owner on Taylor Street concerning a letter he received for items in the boulevard. The issue had been corrected, and I informed him that's all we needed to be done and no record would be kept. 5th of August, I went around checking on progress of properties who had received letters or received a call property owner on Center Street who also owns an attached property on Washington. It's one big outlot. There's a house on the Center Street side, nothing on the Washington Street side. He wanted to know if he could build a lot or build a house there. And basically it's gonna take I'm gonna check what the zoning is on that parcel, but right now there's only one lot. If it's an R1, there's only one structure permitted, residential structure permitted. If it's R2, I believe we can have two structures. In which case he'll be able to do that without it. Otherwise, he'd have to go to the zoning board to get a variance to, or to the planning commission and split the lot.
Pretty much all those are all double lots, aren't they?
Although, yeah, they pretty much run,
But
they're like the east half of outlot,
sure,
whatever, and the west half.
how, I mean, but how can they be two lots with a divide of an alley? I mean, if they-
that is north of the alley.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's right where the alley bends and goes off to Center Street. It's running north, but then kicks to the right up. So it's next lot up. Oh, I gotta check to see. Yeah, he wants to know about it. If it's a buildable lot, he should, whether it is or not. So I gotta get back to that. And this past couple of weeks, we've had a discussion with Paul regarding a house on Maple Street that's been declared a nuisance in the past. And Paul's had contact with the property owner. Sounds like things will be happening in a positive event.
Digger.
That-
You don't mind.
Thanks.
Has anything come up about the house that caught fire and is still setting?
Yeah, I actually am trying to sit down with Ken. He's been in contact with us. They have, I think, all the pieces kind of lined up, and so they are actively working on getting that down. And so they're just waiting on a couple of the other insurance proceeds to come through so that they can kind of, pay for that. But they have been actively working on getting that down. And I know that they've taken some of it down already in the back where it was super rough.
I just noticed a lot of vehicles and stuff sitting around there, yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, I need to,
What insurance proceeds did they get?
I think from their vehicles, like they had insurance on that. And so they're, anyway, he's called me like 3 or 4 times. They're actively working on that. Anything additional for Ken? All right, thank you. We have a couple committee reports, and we will start with community development and public affairs from the 16th.
In attendance were myself, Jessica Sousa, Harold Boggs, Mayor. We discussed the prairie area out in Alumni Park. We decided to go with one prairie area. An ovalish area will take 2 to 3 years to fully develop. Plan is to start killing the grass in the fall, starting the last week of August and finishing by the middle of October. January to February, hand sowing seeds of native plants, not grasses, will have some wildflower mixes. These will come back every year and will not be replanted. And Dean is collaborating with
several entities.
Okay. On best practices. I'm sorry, I was supposed to ask you that before.
Yeah, well.
Okay. A circle labyrinth path, which is going to be 3 to 6 feet within the prairie, dirt or mulch, and a continuous trail with one way in and one way out is the plan. I know there's been concerns about wildlife. This is to be addressed by not using tall, dominating grasses in the areas and utilizing short to medium height wildflowers and grasses for the bulk of the mix. Also including paths in the prairie will deter wildlife. Harold presented that he met with someone from EMS that Lifelight does have an area to land where the volleyball net is currently placed. And they will also consider purchasing a windsock for the area. The Nature Works grant now has a due date of August 15th, which we've already approved to go after. Discuss future planting of trees and possibility of tree city designation. And we're also, he's not here now, but we'll, the next meeting is scheduled for August 15th at 6, so that Ken can be of attendance. Actionable items is proposing and presenting a plan for the prairies at Alumni Park, which included shapes and a timeline. And that's what you handed out.
Yeah. Yep.
And then I don't see it in the folder. We were talking about a recommendation from council to move the subdivision code to the planning commission.
Right. Yeah. I think it's in the folder, but it didn't make it onto the agenda. But I mean, that's an actionable item, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah. So
Folder, I just didn't see.
Yeah, it's called copy of draft subdivision.
I might not know. That.
okay. So and I don't think this. I mean, we can do a council vote to, I guess, recommend to the planning commission they review that they start the process for reviewing the subdivision code as provided by the committee. So that process.
I would like to delay that
Okay.
in order to have a discussion with the people involved in the subdivision development. There's another idea that I think we need to take a look at before we saddle ourselves with a subdivision.
Okay.
zoning.
Is there an opportunity to talk about that with the planning commission or?
Yeah, that's fine if we want.
Okay.
I mean, for the people that, I read through that subdivision thing a couple different times.
Mhm.
There's a number of concerns I have with it, but I just don't want to send it to the planning commission because like I said, there's another idea that I think could possibly be a benefit to the village that we need to look at.
Okay. Is that something you can propose quickly for review or?
Yeah, not tonight, but I mean.
Right.
By the next.
Whatever.
Community
you're gonna put it
development.
in. Yes.
Okay. You want to give another, well, let's see. So that would be community development.
With Ken for an hour and then
So,
Rob.
yeah, so let's just say we're putting that proposal on the table and it's open for feedback until that committee can meet again, I guess, and we can discuss any other ideas or feedback back into that before we recommend it off to the planning commission. Does that sound fair?
So are we inviting Rob to the next meeting? Would you be able to make that? On August 14th?
As far as I know.
15.
Yeah.
15th, sorry.
All right, we can address the deputy. Thanks for coming.
Sorry to interrupt.
No problem. Does anyone have anything for the deputy while he's handy? No? Okay. All right. Well, thank you, sir. Yeah, I can take that for you. Appreciate it. How's the town looking?
All right.
Yeah.
As far as I know, you give me a sign or anything or no?
Sure. Yeah, I did that after take the notes. All right, and then the other item on there was to put on the table a proposal for the Prairie Project, and so obviously we within that committee and timeline should be consistent with the discussion that happened there, and so I think what we're looking for is today the project proposal be presented to council and approved to be, I guess, distributed further. If there's no, major changes in, or feedback.
You mean approval to proceed with that?
Approval to, I guess, promote the proposal so that there's opportunity for feedback. And so unless someone sees something.
How are you gonna get the feedback?
Okay, so we're hoping to put out some of this information and these details and allow for review basically from now until the next community development meeting, which would be the 15th. And then there would be the opportunity for community development to kind of finalize this proposal and ask council for project approval on the 20th.
Do you have any dollars and cents attached to this project?
Yeah, so we do have some information on that, yes. So finishing out the timeline, if it were approved, we would immediately that week mow down the area, shorten it, and over the next month, it would be kind of roped off and treated for, I guess, total clearing or total removal. And so there's a couple different ways that you can do that. Some are chemicals, some are not. And so we're going to figure out the best way to do that. And so that should be a 1 to 2 month process. And then we have the prairie being roped off. And I think the committee was putting out maybe like an opportunity for the community to provide some feedback on the shape of the interior path, given some criteria. And then at the beginning of the year, then we would ideally have some kind of community seeding event. And then over the next couple months, it would kind of be reseeded and it would start to grow. I did write up something further. I
haven't heard anything about the cost yet.
Okay, yeah, so the total project is expected to cost less than $500, probably way less than that, as we're anticipating that the seeds will mostly be donated. And so the other costs involved are, I guess, the chemicals and, like the staking and the roping. And so that's expected to be a couple $100. And so,
How many square feet do you have?
yep. And so the total area is seen by this map right here. And again, this path is just purely, speculative, but that outline area does show what's being proposed. That is smaller than what was out there. And so as a part of some of the discussion, we just wanted to make sure that it sat off of the path enough that, it's very easy to, get the mower in there and, for someone to walk to the side. And so at its closest, it's 30 feet to the path, and that's in two separate spots. You can kind of see them on the drawing there. But the total, I guess, square footprint of it is 110 by 255. And so again, this right here kind of shows like what the shape of it's going to look like.
With the exception of the interior.
With the interior, yeah.
And that's going to be done
Yep.
in
I kind of went, so
mulch or something.
So the plan provides an opportunity for the public to participate in designing the interior path throughout the prairie. We've identified that the interior path could serve to kind of break up the large areas, discouraging any unwanted animals and just providing a safe and scenic path through it. And like I said, as far as like the feedback portion, I think there's further details to take into account by the committee, but that would be no cost.
Andy's got his hand up.
Yes, sir.
Is labor being accounted for in the cost?
Are you talking about labor from the administrator?
I don't care who's doing it. I'm asking, is the labor being accounted
We don't
for in the cost?
We don't expect any paid labor to be a part of this project, aside from the administrator.
Okay,
So
His salary.
The administrator gets paid a salary. Yeah. So that's,
There is a
So
cost.
it's labor.
it's kind of it's part of his normal job function. Yeah.
I'll do it for free if I have to. I mean, I don't. really-
You'll clock out of your salary job, gotcha.
I'll volunteer my time to go out there and do what I need to do, if that's the case.
That's the-
Then I'll donate 10 hours of my time to take care of it.
That's not necessary. So aside from the administrator, it's not expected that there's any hired labor, there's no contractor. Luckily, Dean is prominent enough to have connections with both the Ohio and Wood County Park districts, among other organizations, and it's pretty much expected that between those resources, we'll be able to cover pretty much everything we need.
Well, just the chemicals alone, to do one-time saturation of that,
Yeah, Harold did a cost estimate of about $100.
using what? So there's only one application around it?
No, I figure 5 gallons of Roundup should cover 3 applications down there, and it's a 50.
My calculations show that it'll take 50 gallons. You've got over 24,000 square feet. The best Roundup that you can use at 360 to 365, which you can buy at Home Depot, I'm using the number, is roughly $40 a gallon. So you have 50 gallons just to do one application. And I think you're gonna be looking at probably what, Dean, 3 to 4?
3 probably max, but.
So
2.
that's times 3 at that point in time.
Well, we can tighten up that number.
Well, that's a far cry from $500.
Okay, well. I mean, I think we've already also identified other ways to rid that. We're looking for some guidance there, but that's great. We can further research that, for the committee meeting. Any other?
As far as treatment of the path, the labyrinth path, you said either dirt or mulch.
Yeah, and
Mulch is pretty expensive.
And well, we talked and actually it seems like the best way to do it might be to kind of seed the entire area, allow it to grow up a little bit and then establish the path. And it would just kind of be like a natural path. And if there were mulch to be introduced, we were planning on using the mulch that we produce from brush pickup. That'd be a use case for that.
And how about taking care of it after it's there?
Yeah,
I
so,
asked the question before,
right.
who's gonna take care of the weeds that grow up in it?
So,
5,000 square foot area.
yeah, so depending on, there's obviously gonna be some weeds that get in there, but the multiple applications are for the first application or two is for the vegetation that's there. Then the ones after that are kind of for the seed bed. And so as long as that seed bed,
Seed bank, actually.
seed bank, sorry. As long as that can be,
And even after that, you're not expecting any weeds to grow?
Oh, no, there will be, no.
Yeah.
Not that, but this isn't a,
It's not a landscaped project.
Not asking it to be, but at the same
Yeah,
time,
although-
we have weeds and things that we have in our ordinances to do whatever everybody's gonna do. I just want everybody to realize what the cause and effect of this whole thing is, as far as what it's gonna cost the village to maintain it.
eventually the native stuff will dominate over everything. And, so that's how that works.
yeah. And I had asked Dean about, the maintenance burden and, you had indicated that kind of once a year, we would probably have to.
Mowing it 8-9 inches, something like that.
Right. So we'd clear it.
That was my next question.
Here.
Everybody keeps talking about medium height or whatever. What is the designated height that you're looking at?
I think we're
Wildlife can come in at 7 inches, quite honestly. Rabbits and
sure.
things of that nature.
And there could be some of that. I think putting the path through is going to discourage some of that, like that interior path. But I think we're trying to keep it, the choices of the plants will be ones that are lower in height as opposed to, some of the stuff that can get
But
taller.
what's the height you're looking to achieve?
I think ideally like knee height or lower, right?
Yeah.
Somewhere around there. I mean, there'd be some variation, of
The
course,
description
but
was like 12 to 24.
Well,
Versus knee height or shin height.
there'll be a lot of wildlife in something that high, believe me. I don't know how you say that it's gonna help against that. I mean, I've got rabbits in my backyard that I know my backyard.
is there an issue with rabbits taking up residence in it or?
Well, other than the fact that they become coyote meat or eels or whatever.
But the coyotes don't go in your backyard, right?
And the rabbits would be
No.
there if it was just grass, as you just said, right?
No, I have rabbits in my backyard currently.
Yeah, so.
My backyard
If
is
we left
fenced.
if we left the prairie area as just grass, you would have rabbits in it anyway then.
But not to the degree that you have it or will have it if you're having them come in and inhabit it.
Rabbits are territorial though.
Okay, so it sounds like
You can
the,
defend it all day.
So kind of the-
point is that
Gonna be
people are
there whether or
concerned.
not.
People are
And I
concerned
think that,
of coyotes coming
I
in.
believe it is in council rules that if an issue is brought up to council, unless it can be disposed of quickly, it should be put on a
Yeah.
committee.
so,
So this concern, and since Rob will be at the next meeting, should be taken to community development and public affairs meeting, his concern to see. Okay.
I would also like it to come as far as the community forum and let the community come in and let people know as to what they think of it and what they want to do.
I think that's why we're putting the plan out there now for there to be that.
I apologize to interrupt. I know we are not supposed to speak until
Go
the
ahead.
end. But I would like the opinions of the council members, because I'm not there at every committee meeting.
Mhm.
And I have crunched my time. So when I'm out here looking at you guys, I would like to know what your opinions are.
All right, so does anyone want to tell Jigger what your opinion is?
For the walking path?
The council members.
Right, for the,
So Rob speaking does
Oh.
not bother me.
Oh, sure. No.
I understand that. I'm just going by what's written in council
Yeah.
rules as to lengthy discussion.
Yeah, and what I want to take away from that is so your questions that you'd like to be answered are, number one, the cost of taking it down, a better estimate on that. And then two, I guess you want to
Whether or
know.
not the community feels as though that it's necessary.
Okay, well, again, that's why we're putting the plan out there for feedback.
Well.
I mean, is there
I
anything-
want an actual community forum. The last committee meeting that I was at, I was told that if people don't come to committee meetings, then they don't care. They don't have any input if they're not at a committee meeting. That not all people understand what committee meetings are about. Whereas if you have a public community forum that comes in to address a specific project, like City of Bowling Green does, Rossford, they've done it. They've had community forums come in to discuss a project that's gonna cost the taxpayer money. And I just think it's fair to do that.
so
I'm stating.
Can we,
I'd like to just make mention of the timeline. When we developed the timeline, we developed this at our last community development meeting with all of that in mind after our last council meeting. And we said that our goal for official decision is August 19th. So we're proposing it. We're going to post the proposal to social media, give 2 weeks for community input, and also for them to come to the next council meeting and speak with us on this. This is not a final today. This is an introduction so that we can get feedback. We're not moving to start the process of burning until the end of August, very beginning of September. So really, there's a full month here to get community input. And if we decide at the next meeting that that's not enough, then maybe we can bring that up at that
What-
point. But I do want you to understand that this is an introduction so that we can get that input. Like, we're
Right.
not trying to shut it out.
Well, you were asking for a vote for something,
Um,
wasn't you?
I haven't heard
Not on
anything
this.
asking for a vote
That's
now.
what you were, that's what.
No,
I thought he was brought up.
oh, well, I mean, I wanted to put out this proposal for
Social
feedback
media.
after this discussion, if,
The proposal is.
you know, unless there was something seriously flawed and
What's the threshold of acceptance or not acceptance of whatever to whomever, you know what I'm saying? I mean, are we putting, because like Rob said, I mean, if we open it up to committee, I mean, what is that threshold of saying, yeah, we want this and, or we don't want this? What is that threshold?
a council vote, I think, right? A majority council
I
vote.
mean, I'm talking about if input from the, because you're asking you're putting on social media for the input of the
Yeah.
public to do what, you know, and what is that threshold of
Wouldn't
if
that
we
be
get a
up to
bunch of
each-
people?
To every council member? Like, it would be, the input would be presented to the council member and then that, they would base their decision themselves based on
Right.
what they're saying.
So council vote, next council meeting unless decided otherwise.
Yeah, and then what we
It's
can,
not 30 days, sorry to interrupt this.
Yeah, that's 2 weeks is not enough.
what we can do for the, you know, the community forum is we can advertise our committee meeting for, you know, discussion on that. So we can, advertise specifically.
Also, the prairie and the walking path have been in discussion for much longer than 30 days.
That,
Make that mention.
today, ma'am, I'm sorry.
This has been in our committee meetings much longer. We presented this as an official because of the
That's why I
questions.
asked that council members should be allowed to speak.
Sure. Yeah, no one,
It's an issue because
no
not every
one's-
citizen has the time
No-
to make to every.
figure no one's
meeting.
trying to keep anyone from speaking, but I think the other council member was just pointing out that we do have it in our council rules that
I mean,
Back.
that if we have discussion, excuse me, if we have discussion
as a
that
member of
can't
the
be,
public, I'm getting a point here. There's an agenda on the
I
table.
understand, but we have a limited,
That's how it's gonna move forward. It doesn't matter.
Jigger. I'm gonna reclaim the floor here.
Move ahead.
I'm just saying there's a limited amount of time in these meetings. And the council rules state that if something,
That's why you have public meetings where the public can voice their opinion.
Yeah, that's every committee meeting.
right, yeah. So there's, yeah, there's only the council rules being referenced there.
Maybe counselors should help you why other cities and villages do it as a public meeting to get a public opinion
We've helped them.
on a project that is gonna spend public money.
I guess we are looking for public input.
He's stating a specific community forum meeting for that specifically to discuss. So that you don't run into your council rules and time.
I mean, we have lots of council members with other jobs and lots of things to do. We have regularly scheduled meetings that can easily handle this discussion.
Your residents pay taxes by working jobs.
I understand, but I guess what I'm saying is there is that opportunity for that feedback and it will be August 15th or up until then.
Okay, so
Yeah.
not 30 days, just to be on the record.
I'm just saying,
10 days.
that is the opportunity to come and
10 days.
be heard by the,
Third,
He's saying he should have 30 days before.
Because this is an official timeline of progress versus before it's in progress. There was nothing definite. This is the timeline. Am I right?
yeah, I mean, there's nothing like keeping it from being the
I'm-
meeting
I'm-
after
I'm
that. If
comfortable.
there's,
We only got so many
if,
hours.
if we feel like that there's, you know, not enough opportunity for people to provide, you know, their input. I mean, that's totally something that can be talked about. You know, this is a proposal. If The timeline is,
Not on-
if the timeline is the thing that you have the,
August 15th.
if the timeline is the Jigger,
One way and
Jigger.
two are going the other way.
Mr. Patel,
Yes, Mr. Mayor.
if the feedback is the timeline, then noted, okay? And we can discuss that. The whole thing is a proposal. To be honest, if it needs another 2 weeks, that's not a problem to the project. There's ample time.
We have time, but to be honest, we don't have a real number. To mow mulch, do round off, whatever, it's $500. I know it's more than that.
Well,
There's no actual numbers. There's no way to grab feedback, like, okay, we have how many voters last election?
Well, that question was asked and
How-
it seemed like that number,
The
that's,
majority of the population wants this. All right, we got 6 council members.
Jigger, with all due respect, we make all kinds of decisions every day.
I
And
understand
you
that.
can't go and knock on everyone's door and ask them what they feel about everything. There's ample opportunity to be heard. There's multiple council members that would be, all council members, I'm sure, would be willing to take your call. That is how the process works. They are
understand
representing
that.
you.
I understand that. I run 2 businesses
right?
and I don't ask a question on every penny, but I do ask questions on the dollars. And this is a dollar question.
And I think we've identified that we'll double check that it will fit within that dollar
Thank you.
amount.
We can-
So the question had been fielded and it had been determined that it should be under 500. And so if our calculation is off, then I'm sure that we can determine that. Anything additional? Okay, so is there approval to put the project out to the public for feedback? Like to get council's okay on that? I'm sorry?
Are you looking for a motion?
Yeah,
So moved.
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? And yeah, I guess we'll put something together and we'll send it for
I
review.
don't think the proposal is gonna do any good unless you have actual numbers you can receive the true feedback from.
I think we can,
No.
I think we can note that that's been asked and that's something that's being looked into and.
But you're saying you're gonna put it out to the public without.
But
Right now.
But I don't think you can expect to have all the answers. That's what the public input is for.
You can have some pretty hard numbers of what it's gonna cost to eliminate things, and I just gave you those numbers, which are true numbers.
Okay, I look forward to, having Harold double check that, I guess, and just fine tune his estimate there. Oh, boy. Okay, moving on. We had a safety meeting from the 22nd.
Okay. It was held on the 22nd at 6 p.m. In attendance, Kathy Hyman, Brittany Kokowski, Jesse Kendall, Tim Schroeder, Rick Easterwood, and myself. Minutes from the last meeting were approved. They have 201 runs year to date. Kathy was going to attend the Milton Township meeting on 7/23 to discuss current status of the EMS. We did discuss proposed new payment system for on-call EMS personnel. Proposal to determine number of persons on call to be paid, still a question of 2 or 3. Also proposed to pay the personnel monthly rather than quarterly. We will continue to collaborate with the necessary personnel to finalize new payment program. It's been kind of tough to get a couple of the members together to actually sit down and determine what they feel could work with all of the EMTs and the advanced and your paramedics. So I'm going to attempt it again this week to try and get them to sit down and give me the information that we need to start putting this in writing. The current info or billing is being submitted twice monthly to Medicount, the billing company. There were still some concerns over the placement of volleyball net near the Lifelike landing zone. They were stated by, I think, 3 of us that were in attendance at that meeting, that we just feel it's still too close to the zone. And also the fact of what the prop wash will do to the net was the bigger concern. Myself and Kathy Hyman plan to attend the Weston Township meeting coming up next Monday to give them the current state of the EMS and some of the stuff we're looking at. Actionable items. Do we need approval from council to start action necessary to address the residents that burned on Walnut Street? Whether or not council needed our input on any of that.
They're like open burning, is it?
No, the house. That is.
Are we giving them a timeline? Because technically we,
When was that discussed in that committee?
I don't know.
It was discussed before that, quite honestly.
Okay, yeah, because I'm on that committee and I don't remember it being brought up during the
No.
meeting. I was just wondering why it was in the summary for that meeting. Yeah,
I put it in there.
oh, okay.
Yeah.
So, yeah, okay.
You don't have to approve it.
Okay, so that did have open discussion in that meeting, or no? Is
No,
that's
not have.
Not.
okay.
It was before council had thrown it to safety before, as far as its time of the fire, I believe. So I'm just asking, is it still our responsibility?
All right. I guess it's being worked through with them if you're looking for like a
Asking. I don't want something to sit there that's unsafe and what have you. That's all I'm talking about. It's not that anybody's gonna take any action in the committee.
all right, noted. We had a public works meeting on the 23rd.
In attendance was Rob Meyerholtz, Brittany Kukowski, Craig Warner, Harold Boggs, Dean, Bob Desmond, myself, and Jeremy Schroeder. Started a conversation about Feller and Finch estimate bid process. According to Feller and Finch, we have to take it back to bid because we are over the 10% threshold that the process allows. Which Bob Desmond from Kleinfelter believes the state raised that threshold to 20%. He stated that is the ORC 153-12. We will need to get legal and Feller Finch to clarify, which I think we did. This is a case, in this case, we still want to Morlock to do the job as bidded. Main Street and Taylor Street project, in which Bob Desmond was here for, went like this. Downtown Main Street from the tracks to Cherry would be 131,590 for a mill and overlay. Downtown from the tracks to Taylor would be 1,107,460.33 for the total rebuild. Taylor Street from Main to 235 was 256,600. All this together puts us over the threshold of the OPWC. So discussion ended up moving forward on Main Street from tracks to Cherry, Taylor Street to 235 for the OPWC. Instead of total rebuilding downtown, the rest of the main just grind and repave, which would be down here. And to see if possible Cherry from here to Oak, or maybe Mill to Walnut to Main would be allowed for that difference of the amount of money we're allowed to do. We would need to get the last possible records for these projects. Taylor was done by, I believe, Feller and Finch. And any records from our files on the Main Street paving, so that would help pass along to Bob Desmond for his PWC process. Council would need to pass a resolution to Kleinfelter to proceed with the OPWC grant, which I think we did. An administrative process to get with grant writer for grant opportunity, total rebuild downtown for tracks to Taylor. There was talk about a couple of grants that we would need, that we could be qualified for. If we can't get WC and another grant, we possibly may still be using the SIB for financing. More to come on that. Lighting project in process for new Harold is getting for areas Orange, Poplar Beach, and now Washington and Brook Lane. More to come on that. Check with JPEX on the manhole cover project completion, which he said it was going to be done the 8th. Council needs to make a resolution for Silver Street and Main Street. So if and when we get clarification to move forward, which I think we did. The next meeting, we're going to discuss crack sealing projects and sidewalk joining to roadway to get legal to simplest way to parking for over here and nothing too difficult. So that's okay.
Sounds like we took care of the action.
Okay,
Yeah,
with the parking and everything.
I don't think so about that.
That's here.
Yeah, Mr. F is here.
Yeah, we can discuss some of the challenges we've had with the drafting of the parking policy. And so I think ultimately, it seems like council's not really interested in trying to collect money from that as opposed to just kind of keeping account of who's parking there long term. And so that's where it's like, okay, if you're gonna park there long term more than, a day or two or whatever, then we'd like you to file with the clerk or the village for a permit. And whether or not there's a cost associated with that, I don't think
we wanted the cost per se. It was free to the residents.
Yeah.
Is what we proposed.
So-
Free to the residents. That way we know that black Impala down there belongs to Bob, and if we notice the tire is flat, we can contact Bob and we have the information. That was the only process because we had a lot of people down there who was parking there and just leaving it there. And we have no way of towing it because it doesn't meet our code, right? They have an in-op vehicle and we have no information on who it belongs to. So therefore we're kind of stuck. We don't really want to tow anybody, but if we can knock on Bob's door, using it as a reference, that we can say, hey, your tire's flat. And by the way, why is it still sitting there? We know we do have commercial vehicles that park there and they leave their vehicles there, which we would want them to park there, right? Drop their truck off, pick up their car, go make their run, whatever, come back and forth. But we just need to know vehicles that are there to keep from
And we don't
abusing the situation.
People storing their cars.
And so it sounds like some of your concern, Paul, and let me know if I'm wrong, but so you're seeing kind of a process that's fairly involved when it comes to either giving them a parking ticket or towing them from that public lot. Is that where the issue seems to come in? I think
So my concerns, one, that this is gonna end up being a storage facility. That's my number one concern. You don't charge anyone and they've got campers or whatever, they're, rather than pay a storage facility to keep them for the winter, they're just gonna park them there. That was my concern in the correspondence back last month. And then the other concern was that if you do want to ticket for parking violations, and you have to create a parking violations bureau with the Bowling Green.
Yeah, and again, I don't think the intention is to allow anyone to store anything long term. We want it to be used,
Prevent that under the scenario that you just suggested.
right? And I guess what is the difference kind of now? Without that policy, but we do have a sign that says it's okay to park there basically, versus if we were to implement, like, say, a simple registration process, even if it didn't have, the courts assigned to it, you can assume that most people would comply if there's enough notices, posted.
But if they don't.
If they don't, if it's inoperable, like it has a flat tire, then that's not an issue, correct?
Right, that, well, yeah, you can declare that in your sentence.
Right. And so the only issue comes if it's not apparently inoperable, right? Which I guess what I was, kind of saying to Rick is technically no different than kind of the situation we're in now, right?
Right.
Yeah. And so I don't know, I guess I was encouraging them to do the parking permit process, even if there isn't that, court appearance or, the traffic, the parking court violations bureau applied to it.
I talked to Judge Redden about it. He says that no other village has a parking violations bureau.
Right. So I don't know, something to think about, I guess. And
So we couldn't even do a park by permit, even though if we have restrictions, say there's no campers, no long-term parking. We couldn't even do that because we don't have a parking bureau.
Well, we don't have an enforcement mechanism.
We can do it, we just can't enforce it.
Yeah.
Get a towing company.
Yeah, but you can't tow them either.
Can't enforce it.
unless they're inoperable.
I was gonna say, if it has a sign that it could be towed.
Is that the case?
But if you're opening it up
The
for
public,
public parking.
Yeah, then you have.
I think that's the difference, yeah.
The person's not in violation.
But if it's by permit only,
I have a parking lot for, my business,
private parking,
private parking, restricted to the people who work in the building.
Right.
yeah.
If someone parks there and they don't work in the building, I'm gonna have them towed.
so even if we did by permit only, that's no longer public, that's considered private because it's by
Well,
permit.
now you have a statute that specifically says you can't park here long-term without a permit or something like that.
So
Which we
could-
don't have to go through a traffic court type thing. That's just an ordinance.
Saying you don't have any way to.
He's saying that you do. Yeah. He's saying that if you put that statute in place and have any enforcement tied to it, that you're bound to have that.
Judge Redden suggested, he said, just make it a minor misdemeanor. Bring them into court. Make
Oh,
it-
so that is an option.
But do you really want to make criminals on parking?
All right.
Right.
I don't recommend.
All we're just trying to do is keep the people.
it.
And it's just not going above and beyond what we really want to do. I mean, if we can go to a permit only and have it marked and they can be towed, but there's no way of monitoring it and enforcing it, then
So could we do, this is random thought, could we do like an ordinance like we've done with all of our other things with a similar violation process where we notify, because we have their information on file, where we notify them via letter, you're in violation of our permit,
You can send them all the letters they want.
but
that
we
you
can't
want.
enforce
But
it.
if you don't have a parking violations bureau at the municipal court, I
What's the process for the parking violations? Bureau?
think it's just a petition to the judge and then the judge should advise. Anytime you have a violation, court can notify me and should appear for the magistrate.
Possibility for us to be trendsetters.
Judge does not.
That's why I suggested
I don't want to, I don't want to take,
I don't want to deal with the deal.
I don't want to take nobody to court. I just want to make sure that we know where Bob lives at and we can knock on his door. That's all.
What McClure have, they have at least 2 over-the-road truck drivers.
Mm-hmm.
They own their own trucks. So when they're home, they have no place to put the trucks. They're parking them in the front yard. And of course, you can't do that. So what council did is they have a vacant lot that they don't use for public parking. They just happen to own a gravel lot. And they rent it for $100 a year to the truck drivers.
When that truck is there, it's $100 a year, for the right to park there.
So we do that too, but without the money exchange, can the same thing be done, but it's $0? And so parking by permit only
That would, I mean,
is,
that's all we really.
and that would not require
As long as they have a permit.
right.
But then what if they don't have a permit? You can't do anything about them.
Still parked there. We can't do anything about it.
Right, whereas in McClure, if someone other than those two truck drivers parked there, that's private property. I mean, it's not a public parking spot.
But our process could outline,
We could,
3 days, grace, I guess,
so if someone,
right?
or if they're not paying the price, what happens to them?
They would be towed.
Because it's,
So why couldn't we
It's not
even
a
have like a
parking lot.
dollar charge for them? to go
It's
there?
not a public parking lot.
Yeah.
But I think there's just some nuance
This is
there.
public land.
That was a public land too. One of McClure's a public.
But it's not a public, it's not open.
So it's designated.
Yeah, we,
Okay.
If we could designate that as a private parking by permit and anybody that doesn't have a permit, we can tow legally.
Yes.
Oh,
I think that's the way to do it.
Okay.
According to council rules, we spent enough time on this, so send it back to
Yeah.
committee.
agreed. Yeah, I think we were just picking Paul's brain. Yeah. So, okay. Anything further? I think that's
it.
Take back.
Got clarification. We'll start again.
A couple upcoming meetings. I believe it says here, Sports Initiative Board on the 6th, but I think it's actually on the 13th, at 5:30. Cemetery is on the 8th at 6. Administrative processes on the 12th at 6. Parks and Rec on the 14th at 6:30. Community Development, Public Affairs on the 15th at 6. And just a note that our council meeting, our next council meeting is on Tuesday instead of Monday. That'd be 8:20 at 6.
Is there another meeting of this special baseball committee?
we haven't set it up yet. I noticed that. We need to set a date.
There's the opportunity to set a date now or
So this 13th meeting, that's the, not,
actual board.
the actual board. Gotcha.
So it looks like the week of the 19th, council hall is available that Monday, Wednesday, or Thursday.
The ball board, I have a meeting on the 6th. Brittany, when is it?
It's on the 13th.
I was gonna say, they gave me the 6th. That's why it's that.
They originally decided on the 6th and they had to move it.
Like I moved it on the village calendar.
Okay.
Sorry.
Move that one first. All right. So that's the 6th. Okay. You're saying the 19th?
The
The week
19th,
of the 19th.
the 19th, the 21st, the 22nd, or that following week, the 28th, 29th. Looks like it's clear as far as other meetings.
I like having one week without meetings personally. So if you guys aren't opposed the week of the 19th,
Out of the state, so
you're out.
That
of
whole week?
state that week, yeah.
Okay.
Um,
You could do the following month.
We can do the last week if we have to.
Okay.
Of August.
When are you back, Dean?
Not sure. I think I'm leaving the 7th. You'd have to ask my wife. But basically, I mean, I should be back by that Monday.
Okay. So the 28th or 29th should work.
Should, yeah.
Wednesday or Thursday.
Either way. Rob,
Pick a day.
29th.
All right. 6 o'clock, 29th will be our special ball, council. All right, we do have some new business. This will be an ordinance to provide the cost and expense of lighting for the streets, alleyways, and other public places in the village of Weston, Ohio, and confirming inclusion therein of new and or improved lighting projects, declaring an emergency. And so this is just setting our light assessment to 21,000, which is the same as
It's lower than it
a little lower.
usually is.
Okay.
Yep.
And so Rick had asked if that would be okay, taking into account that we have some lighting work in progress.
Some that didn't get done from
Right.
the original.
Yep. And it appears that, oh, that's revenue, sorry. Okay, so of course that collection comes into its own fund that can only be spent for that. On status, that's what I'm looking for. And right now that that fund has 39,000 with still 50%, you know, or so to collect from this year's revenues. So I don't expect that to eat at that. So does that answer your question? Okay.
What was your reason for the assessment to begin with at this point? Is it renewed at this time of the year?
Yeah, yeah,
Right.
yeah.
I just want to make sure that that's what it was.
Okay. Any further questions on that? It was lowered slightly because our bill is trending lower as a result of
Is there a
change.
reason why we're doing an emergency on that? I mean, is there a time constraint?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, do we have motion to suspend the rules? We have a first, second, a roll call, Ms. Kulkowski, Mr. Easterwood,
Yes.
Ms. Susser,
Yes.
Mr. Meyerholtz, Mr. Babcock, and Mr. Warner.
Yes.
And do we have a motion to approve
24.
24 ordinance 2024-13?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. And speaking of other assessments. Stephanie's drafted up our mowing assessments. I just wanted to note on here that we have our assessment for the commercial property that we just mowed. I have communicated with this gentleman and he'd like an opportunity to speak to either council or a committee meeting. I think he's planning on coming to a committee meeting to talk about that. And so the 250, yeah, for the laundromat.
He hasn't paid it?
Is not paid it. And so, yes, I'd just like to see if,
The ordinance can wait another reading or wait another council meeting if it needs.
It is, I mean, we follow the process and we have a process.
Yep.
And I am really sorry that it had to go that way, but I mean, we have a process.
So, I mean, the process also, shows, like when we send out the assessments, that's kind of a fixed timeline. And so I guess what I'm just saying is he wants to reach out and communicate further before you.
So what's I mean, if he pays the bill, then we want to assess his taxes. So there shouldn't be a problem. I mean,
I'm just giving him the opportunity to talk to council or.
Like I said, I don't need to be
him the
rude about it.
pros and cons of both. And it sounds like we have another council meeting to.
Yeah, so the deadline is September 9th to submit these assessments, but that doesn't give us enough meetings for 3 readings and the 30-day
I'll tell you what,
effective, so.
how about we just consider this the first reading? And you can do second emergency reading next council meeting. Is that,
We could, but I mean, I don't understand what's gonna change. I mean, in my opinion,
Okay.
I don't mean to be rude about it. I don't, because I understand that there might have been some logistics, but we have the rules in place. He has property in town. Everybody's grabbing those.
Yeah, I think we were all in agreement on that. before.
Yeah, I don't
Don't know what's changed.
Yeah, I don't,
just giving him an opportunity to,
He wants to voice questions and opinions.
he definitely has an opinion.
well, we have an
If
opinion
he-
too
I
that,
was gonna say, if he
Okay, then-
wants to hear from council, it's gonna have to be,
That's what I'm asking.
that's fine. I mean, if we're not on the time constraint, that's fine. But,
Okay,
he's gonna have to come to council.
right, yeah.
so we'll just pass on this one then.
I'd like to hear from him before we pass it.
Yeah, I explained to him that, if he, wanted heard on this issue, that he'd have to talk to, council. And I laid out that, he could, talk to council as a whole. He could talk to, a committee, if the reason he wants to speak out is to maybe see future change, there could be, value in addressing the committee that, comes up with,
On the 14th,
that verbiage. And so I left it open to him.
so he knows when our
Yes.
next 2 meetings are, he'll be at one of them.
Yep.
Council meetings or committee and council?
I told him,
Go to committee. Should be a council rule.
As I say, council.
Already been through all
Sends
the
it to-
process.
Yeah.
I think that's totally up to him. So, I
Well,
mean,
if it's about future, then it could be committee, but if it's about current and his taxes, then it's a council vote. He'll have to do both at the very least.
at the end of the day, it's up to council to approve the assessment. Yes. Okay, so we'll consider that first reading. We have, next thing here. This is resolution 2024-13. A resolution authorizing the village administrator of the Village of Weston to prepare and submit an application to participate in the Ohio Public Works Commission State Capital Improvement and or local transportation improvement programs and execute contracts as required for improvements to Taylor Street and Main Street, declaring an emergency.
Motion to suspend the rules on that one.
Okay, motion to suspend the rules.
Second.
All right, Mr. Warner.
Yes.
Yes, okay, Mr. Babcock.
Yes.
Mr. Meyerhold.
Yes.
Ms. Zuser. Mr. Easterwood.
Yes.
And Ms. Klikowski.
Yes.
Okay, any further discussion on this?
Making a motion to approve.
Okay, we have a motion and a second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. And so, this vote will allow Pogelmeyer / Kleinfelder, to, move forward with our application for the OPWC.
And this is a time restraint. It has to be done by September.
Yeah. The reason for the emergency is the time constraint. All right, and we have, one more resolution here.
This next one, so, I got a call from the, Board of Elections. Apparently, the Secretary of State returned our resolution because it didn't specify the dollar amount per 100,000. I had Paul speak to the Board of Elections and it's not really an issue because they still approved our language, but it's just,
Formality.
a fix, yeah.
The Board of Elections says the statute or the ordinance that you guys passed was fine. They've approved it. The valid language has been approved. Everything is fine with the counties. When they sent it to Columbus, Columbus said, well, how much is it per 100,000? And so Mr. Burton called Stephanie and then ultimately me. We spoke about it. He suggested, but is not. One of the options is to do nothing because it's been approved. Don't worry about it. The other option is just to prepare a new resolution that includes the $41 per 100,000. And if it's passed as an emergency, Mr. Burton will just put it in the file. So he's satisfied that if the state has audited him, it's been done.
Okay,
But he wants it in.
all right, so,
Motion to suspend the rules.
okay. All right, and so Paul kind of said there, so this adds additional language that spells out it's $41 for each 100,000 appraised.
It's otherwise identical to the ordinance.
So we have a motion to suspend the
Second.
rules and a second. The motion to suspend the rules. Okay, so Mr. Warner,
Yes.
Mr. Babcock, Mr. Meyerholtz, Ms. Susser, Mr. Easterwood.
Yes.
Ms. Kwiatkowski.
Yes.
We have a motion to approve.
So move.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
All about motioned out.
All right, has,
Excuse me, I have to, another.
thank Paul.
Thank
Hey,
you.
just don't bill us the last half hour. See ya.
Has council had an opportunity to read the bills?
To pay the bills.
All right, we have a second from Rob. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Miscellaneous business. We have under here Toledo Edison, understanding of logistics.
That came up to me through a couple of different business owners and also at our business council meeting, that there was a big concern with Edison's use of power going out all the time. I had reached out to Stephanie to find out if she could contact the representative or whatever to see if he could be here, but I think, and I'll let some of the business speak towards that, but I believe that with the subcontractor that they have out there, I don't know whether Edison's doing their due diligence and keeping track of what the hell's going on with their subcontractor. And it is costing people and businesses money and has cost them money. And in particular, I'll let Mr. Marion speak to his woes.
It's a little over 70,000 in damages right now.
Wow.
Pretty concerning.
Yeah.
And I can understand why Mr. Marion would want us to try to apply pressure from the standpoint of they should at least be letting us know when this power is going to go down for the possibility of it. They should know that. They're, and I'll go on record as stating they're crap of saying that it was
Weather related.
all this other.
That was really nice. There wasn't any foul weather that day.
Yeah. The one that.
I'd rather have most of those days.
And
Get the gentleman's name that you had that has the recording device.
Dave DeWeet.
oh, yeah.
He's got a service thing, but it would also.
So I can tell you that my high voltage went over 580 volts. Burn up a $30,000 air compressor. It's not, it's happened a lot. Good thing is that they've stopped working on Weston Road for the most part, and it hasn't happened in a week and a half.
Yeah, it's been a couple weeks.
But, I call them up and it just falls on deaf ears, just like any individual does.
Do you think you could get us some, I guess this council record is good. Would you be willing to give us some written correspondence that we could use, when talking to Toledo Edison?
Written correspondence pertaining.
Yeah, just like giving us a letter or an email, something physical, explaining, the issue and the concern. And, that could be, something that we take, to Toledo Edison with us if we're going to talk to them.
Yeah, I think there's several of us that would do that, right?
Yeah, I think that'd be really powerful.
That's the thing. We went to Rob first at the business administration.
Business council meeting.
Sure.
Because if we go as a group, then chances of something happening are greater than.
That's what I'm
all of us
thinking.
doing this on our own.
Yeah.
I've talked with a couple other people since our meeting that have had similar problems with similar communities and community sizes. And, basically we're probably going to get the same results they got, which was nothing until you file class action. You know, I don't know that we need to take things that far, but, you know, my case, I don't want to claim this on my insurance because of all the problems that I've had in the past with that. Dirty power, you know, things of that nature. So all it does is make my rates keep going through the roof. But I am, as I told Jigger, fed up with it now. Not just that, the other part that we talked about at the business administration meeting was, when they are working out there, we've had to call the police 3 times to get home. Because they block both sides of the damn road. And, you know, there's no fields to drive through now to get around their truck. Now, there's elderly people that live across the street. If there was a fire or medical emergency,
Are they just blocking in your residence?
from Taylor Street to where Main Street goes over here on Weston Road.
But I don't believe they have road closed signs today.
Well, they, you know, you can go home at noon for lunch and there's nobody working, no signs, and you go home at 3 o'clock and yeah, then it's closed and,
With signs.
you know, with signs. But both ends of the road, you know, a couple times I, you know, went around town and then I lose my cool a little bit and go around their barricade to go home. But that's, you know, we talked with the officer twice. They went down and, you know, of course had them take the gates down and move a truck, but you can't block both ends of a road like that. Again, it's more, you know, yeah, I was pissed off because I couldn't get home, but it's more for a medical emergency, a fire, you know, something like that.
Right.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, obviously we have reached out to Tuliosen and we've gotten, you know, kind of a what we feel is a canned response. But yeah, if we were to go back to them and be like, look, you know, we're seeing the effects, I think it would be powerful to have, you know, something on record from, you know, the business owners.
Yeah, but he's got the several residents that lost their appliances because of that. I can have,
Can we
Give
put out
give you a,
this to the community? Because I know there's a lot of community members that are not businesses that have also paid a lot out in
Yeah.
appliances.
Yeah, I think that'd be the smartest
my
thing to do.
cookie lady lost his oven and that's not good for town.
I lost a lot.
They get hangry.
Yeah.
Pretty sure.
Um,
Dryer.
Yeah, I guess I'd want to make sure Paul was okay with us, you know, putting that out as like official communication, you know, because certainly there's no ability for us to promise anything.
I think it'd be more just seeking
but-
who else has experienced
I don't.
Yeah.
loss or something from the power outages.
But certainly, you know, we can work together
A couple of
to,
the people in the beginning though that lost air conditioners and
Yeah.
you're still talking 10 grand, you know?
Yeah,
We could ask for the data and then wait to submit it until we get confirmation. from the
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, let's talk further. Let's collect.
yeah, especially the two of us. We're not looking for Toledo Edison to compensate anything, but a heads up so we can turn on.
Yeah, I think.
Totally
it's the
understandable.
logistics Factor of them announcing when they're gonna close the roads,
Mhm.
when there could be interruption in power. I mean, you haven't even brought up the fact of the amount of production time you lost and the production materials you lost. I don't know whether anybody understands the castings industry, but he could be pouring and
Well, so that brings me to my next point. Someone from the village used to come down and warn us every time they were gonna turn the water off. You know, if I have a full heat of steel, I have $30,000 coil. But if the power would fail and I don't have any city water, I'm screwed.
Okay.
And that just happened.
Was it turned off because it was planned or?
I have no idea.
Okay.
Nobody came around. We went
Understood.
to the sink and, you know, oh, there's no water. Nobody came and told us again.
Okay.
You know, but I realize water has to be turned off, it has to be worked on.
Yeah,
Just come and give me a heads up, even 30 minutes.
I'm sure we can talk to Mark about that kind of thing. Yeah.
that standpoint, especially from a production standpoint.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great insight. Thank you.
You know, again, sometimes accidents happen, things like
Sure.
that, you know, but if I know about it, I can stop.
Yeah. Yeah, if it's planned, there's no reason that you shouldn't be able to give a heads up that makes sense to me on the streets as well. I mean, if you're gonna close the street, that's obviously planned and that should be communicated with the village. Cause and that could even be something that we put out on Reach Alert. We do put out road closures on Reach Alert, actually.
It's not so much the closure as it's the closure at both ends.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of things can happen.
All right.
Who's going to handle the data or whatever you're looking to get? I mean, are you just gonna put out an open communication? I think they're looking for some answers of some sort, or a process that you're willing to look at.
I think me and Stephanie can work on that together. So you can communicate with the office.
And if you know people that have incurred damages, encourage them to send an email.
Yeah, and I'm totally not against like putting out, some,
Go ahead and, to use your social media. and
Right,
stuff that you
right.
wanna Use to collect data and put it out there. So
Yeah.
people reaches out. Because there
Yep.
might be people that we don't
They
know
don't
about.
even know about it.
exactly, yeah, I can do that. That's not a problem.
I don't understand why in some of the cases that they would not want to, from a logistic standpoint, let a village or the whole area know. Because I will tell you this, there are people that are on life support, oxygen type situations. I understand they have battery backups and whatever, but it would make it a hell of a lot easier to know if your power's gonna go out, you're not gonna be able to breathe.
I'd be more worried about that because I burn up 4 battery backup systems in surge protection.
Well, that's
during all
the
this.
whole thing. That's what I'm saying. That's the whole thing. It's gonna be operating.
All right. Okay, awesome.
You know that's subcontractors out there.
Howard has his hand up.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Another thing brought up about this power being shut off.
Yep.
At our last meeting we had, the dentist had people in the chairs.
Oh, yeah.
No power.
No power.
Oh, man.
Couldn't even get them out of
So
the chair.
something's gotta be done. It's gotta be done quick,
Yeah.
Well, the good thing is it hasn't happened in like 2 weeks now, a week and a half or 2 weeks.
Yeah.
But there hasn't been much going on out there. And I see they are moving the existing lines onto the other poles now.
Yeah.
But,
Certainly still more work to be done there though. So there's the
we need some
opportunity.
answers.
yeah,
Okay.
Yeah, I'm
Noted.
glad you brought that up, Howard. I forgot about that one.
Yeah.
I didn't even think of that, except we had a representative from the dentist office there and said, boy, you thought you had problems.
yeah.
Have patients in the chair that has fillings drilled out and whatever, and we can't do a darn thing because we don't know how long the power's gonna be out.
Okay, awesome. So our next bullet point here is the grant opportunities. And so obviously our grant writer has started, and so now we need to start, communicating with her on some of the needs we've identified. And I know in streets, we've identified that maybe that main section of Main Street, which has that tall price tag, might have the opportunity for another, type of grant attached to it. And so that's like a perfect example of a project that, we have, an idea of something that needs to be done. And so what we need to do now is just identify each of those in every committee and put them down on paper so that we can start that.
We are not finding the grants. We are just identifying projects.
I think the important part now, yes, is to identify projects, whether or not you have an idea of a grant that could go along with it. Just identifying it will get us on the same page, I think. And then I think the idea is to then open some conversation with her.
Is she planning on meeting with us at administrative process?
I thought it was kind of depending on how this discussion was going, if you wanted.
That's what I'm asking is I submitted a document to council. I separated into 3 areas, which is infrastructure, economic development, and community development. I'm asking that we could move this to administrative process and address these areas with the grant writer.
My concern with this document, some of the projects that are on here, I know haven't passed in the past. And a lot of the projects we've been talking about lately are not on it.
So the area that we are in right now is to dream big and we will drill down there.
Okay, a lot of the projects we've been talking about aren't on it then.
Very true.
So that's my concern.
Is there a specific project?
I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 so far, just off the top of my head that aren't on it.
You'll be there Monday night.
What document is this?
The,
This grant problem.
Yes.
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
big thing, I think, from infrastructure wise, we talked about, and that is to get the survey done for the stormwater situation.
Yep.
Because if you had the survey done, I mean, we could even apply for the grants at that point. I'm not saying we should, but I mean, it's something that we need to move forward on.
Yeah, I think this is a great document, Craig, and you know, so I think, does it seem reasonable then to take this document, you know, for inspiration into each of the committees and then just kind of identify further, like you had said, there's a couple things that aren't on there, you know, and these are like kind of broad, but
Well, that's
not necessarily.
She said to be very broad
Right.
when I spoke to her. To be very broad in everything that what we want to do, and that she would go find grants for these areas.
Yeah.
Jessica, are you suggesting not to meet with her on Monday?
no, I'd like to talk to her and.
Also, is planning to be at council in 2 weeks.
Okay.
Here?
Yes.
Like on Zoom?
Nope, in
In
person.
person, awesome. I'd also like to extend it to the boards and commissions, like planning commission, cemetery board, baseball board. I know they talk about a lot of things that maybe don't come to the committees. You know, they come through our reports and liaisons, but
Okay.
if we're just talking about this at committees, we might miss their grant opportunities, and I'd like to extend it.
Okay, so I'll have Stephanie put out some official communication of the times that we're meeting with the grant writer, then we have this committee meeting. And I guess just that we're looking for, you know, ideas from them, whether it's specific or not. You know, for instance, you know, we have down here sidewalks, but we have a couple sidewalk projects in mind, right? Like one of them is extending the library to Merrill Park, for instance.
Right.
And so I don't think I think that's valuable to identify that.
Right, but we've talked about CDBG using to repair sidewalks as well, right?
Right.
So that is an opportunity.
But I think we should have a collective list of projects we want to do, then and individually grade them, because what might be better for me is not better for you. I'm not saying that is the case. I'm just saying, because we don't want to, no, I'm just saying, we don't want to turn around and bombard her with a bunch of low rated projects because, you know, everybody's like, oh, I think it's great. And we grade them all and they're all.
I think that's the idea. I think that was the idea behind the
She said she has 7 of them that's not on there. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, you know, unfortunately, between a full-time job and everything else, I can't think of everything.
I'm like the first 2.
Yeah.
Put on your thing. I'm like, that's great. That falls right into where I want, but it doesn't maybe not do the recreational portion of the, you know. Oh, I'm sorry.
I don't think she is gonna weigh one grant against the other. I think she's just gonna go for them all.
I think she is too.
Well, but yeah, that's great. But
I don't think she's going to go for those. She's going to look for grants for all of them. And she's going to look for.
Not 100% positive, you know, there's not 100% grants, so we have to figure out what she comes.
Well, according to her, there were grants that you could leverage against other grants for the match, so that she thought that.
Yeah, I mean, that's what we're paying her to do. I think that's good, but I think we need.
Yeah, I think at a certain point though, we have to, you know, put down ideas and certainly there's going to be multiple steps to the process.
I think I didn't mean to interrupt, John.
Yeah, no,
I think Monday night, I think that's what we will kind of figure out from her as to how she sees this first initial project.
Okay.
Stage going.
I would know we're not interested in spending any of our money.
I'm 100%.
She's done this for a lot of nonprofits. I think
Yeah.
she knows the budget constraints they're under. I would also, I guess I would open up that, do we want to? I don't know what committee meetings there are that week, but I think she's going to be in the area most of the week. So I don't know if we want to invite her to
Oh, I'd like,
committee meeting, or if people, does she want to hold open office hours?
At the end of the.
That's next week.
Does she want to hold, no, in 2 weeks, does she want to hold
Huh.
an open office hours where an individual council member can come speak to her?
I think that's
I
it.
would like some time because with EMS, there's not a lot of grants we can actually go after. I mean, that's plain and simple.
That's a great idea. Maybe we
But for
can,
the safety of the town overall, what kind of grants does she see? I mean, I'm not familiar with a whole hell of a lot of them from that standpoint, other than
if,
grants for policing and grants for this. That would be great if we can get a grant to pay part of our sheriff's bill. That's fine. I'd love to
Yeah.
talk to her about that. But I also don't know that that's available for
Right.
rural areas.
so Monday then at administrative process, she's going to be with us by Zoom.
Yes.
Okay. So then that's an opportunity to touch base with her, of course. If she's going to be in town, maybe the next week, I do like the idea of maybe that Monday,
We can propose that to her,
she can have like an open
office hour.
and we can make a time slot with her. I think that'd be great as the chairman of the committee, the ability to kind of talk through with her. And then obviously we'll have her at that council meeting, right?
I'm going back to work, so.
I'd be glad to do it.
Yeah.
If you wanted someone to come in. I'd be glad to do it.
Yeah, she might be able to meet you after work.
I'm got for
She's
3.
going to be here all day.
Yeah.
For the meeting, I'm sure she does.
Okay.
We can do.
All right. So that sounds good. We'll put out some communication to the boards, committees, whatever. We'll put out those dates and then see if we can do that Monday with her. I think that's an excellent idea. Okay. Mr. Marion, anything additional for council? Participating. Howard, anything? Thank you. Mr. Han?
I'm fine, thank you.
All right. Thank you, Randy. Mrs. Wick? Thank you, Samantha. Logan, exit? Oh, okay. Mr. Patel?
I agree with Craig on going broad with the grant, but I also agree with Mr. Easterwood. You need to prioritize what are you gonna participate in, because no one's gonna write 20 grants, not deciding what's gonna be. There's too much time for the amount of money that you're paying.
Yeah.
Second, and this is something you can research on, I have no idea who came up with the name Keeler's Path.
Okay.
I did some research on it, some good things about the person that founded the town or bought the first 400 acres. There is also others about him being abusive, his son leaving the house at 8, traveling the country with a black face. Not a good sign, so.
Yeah, it's Keeler Jr.
Yeah, but if my kid did that, I wouldn't put his name on my store.
Okay, interesting. Anything additional?
That's it.
Okay. Is it Chapit?
Shep
Chapit. Okay. Anything for council? All right, thanks for coming.
Virtual.
Ashley, Mrs. Patel, anything for council?
No, I'm good. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Ashley. Mr. Dallas, anything for council?
Yeah, just one quick question.
You mute Ashley, please.
For what is your present list of projects that you've already submitted or have consulted with our grant writer?
None. That's what we're talking to her about Monday, and then that following council meeting, the following Tuesday.
So we haven't submitted anything since we've hired her for.
She just started August 1st was the beginning of the process.
Oh, okay. I thought she had started last month.
Nope.
Okay.
So yeah, we're ramping that up. Anything else?
Nope, I'm good.
All right, thank you. And we'll be sure to share all of that. So keep an eye out.
I have one concern from a citizen. They couldn't attend this
Yep.
evening and they asked for me to bring it up. There are over Center Street area, there's apparently an influx of groundhogs. And due to the garbage being late pickup, even though we haven't had a holiday, we've been picking up late. They're attracting the groundhogs to our areas. So they're wondering if there's anything we can do about garbage late pickup, groundhogs. I suggested trapping groundhogs, but I said I would voice their concerns and see what you guys have to say.
Yeah, I think
We have options for garbage pickup in this town.
yeah.
So that's.
I've had groundhogs for a while, even before the Rumpke takeover. I'm sure it doesn't help.
I'm surprised because they don't go to garbage.
Not normal.
Yeah. And so it might just be one of those things like two things are happening at once. But that said, I think it is time for us to have some kind of official like city to Rumpke communication, because it is getting ridiculous and they're forcing our residents to break the law basically
Yeah.
with their lack of communication.
What's
Don't
it-
trap them and move them because that costs you more than shooting a gun into them.
Well, and that's, they said they're not supposed to be shooting in town, so what do they
Just leave them in the
do?
live trap, put them in the reservoir.
Burn it out.
Just don't move them. Don't take them down the street and let them out.
Meeting's still going, right?
I was gonna, and I did tell her, because we talked about it, you mentioned a natural deterrent, and I can't remember what it was when we were talking the cemetery. For cats? For groundhogs, I thought it was like a natural predator to them and they stay away. I can't remember.
Coyotes.
Yeah, coyotes.
I mentioned one for
I
cats.
know that there was a brown disposal.
Oh, brown refuse, yes.
Oh,
Yeah.
for garbage.
That's who we have.
Okay.
And he even picked up on the 4th of July.
He said he never misses a holiday. I texted him. He goes, "Did you pick up on the 4th?"
Well, and obviously as that situation unfolds, there's always the opportunity for council, to consider alternatives. But I think we can start with some communication to them, just to explain to them the inconvenience that they're causing.
They're awfully bad. I don't know that they're going.
I suspect that this happens in more than Weston.
Yeah.
Stephanie warned us when
I
we
did.
started.
But that's no reason not to open communication.
I understand that. That's fine.
So we'll start there.
That's good enough communication. Stop.
How about we open communication to Nat and beg them to reopen Weston?
Oh, yeah. But Nat is not accepting Weston right now, is that what you're saying?
Accepting
Any new customers?
No,
Okay,
they're maxed.
all right. Okay, well, I believe that's everybody. Thanks for coming. Adjourned.